But you are, Blanche. You are.
Stuck in this house.
Welcome, your host, Jenny McNulty.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to your house. Hi, I'm Jenny McNulty, and this is the InHouse Comedy Chat. More than a talk show, we are energizing your mind, body, and spirit, coming to you live, as always, from Cher's guest house, because she's amazing and has just been letting us enjoy this beautiful view of the Pacific Ocean. She is just... what a pal. Good old Cher. We're going to try to get her on the beach for the walk today, too. But don't forget to stick around, or don't forget, of course, to enjoy this amazing interview I'm going to do today. I'm so excited to talk to her. It's my dear pal, Lisa Goich. She is a former comedian, an author, a podcast host. She's a producer. She is a real go-getter. In fact, A Girl on the Go is her podcast, and we're going to hear all about that. But first, my thoughts. Alabama, okay, there, you already take a deep breath. You know where the story is headed. In Alabama, there is a Democrat proposed a law to overturn a ban, and it got bipartisan support. Here was the ban. It's the only state in the country that bans teaching yoga in schools. So because it's actually very good for the mind, and they've done all kinds of studies on how it really improves your mental health and your kids' learning, so they were trying to overturn this ban. It sailed through the House. It's now awaiting to be voted on on the Senate, where it's surely going to go through. However, a conservative group in Alabama, the Alabama Eagle, is protesting because they said that yoga is such a big part of the Hindu religion. They're afraid that yoga is going to be the gateway drug to Hinduism. A truly downward-facing dog. My goodness. And in Paris, some other somewhat disturbing news. A man was acquitted recently on an appeal, actually. He was acquitted again for throwing his elderly neighbor off the balcony. The woman was of Jewish descent. He was an Arabic man. He was a drug dealer and smoked 15 joints a day. And he said that he was under pot psychosis and didn't know what he was doing when he tossed his neighbor off the balcony. Okay, I've never smoked 15 joints a day, but I really don't think that much is, even so, that's not going to make you toss your neighbor off the balcony. So that is thoroughly disturbing. But what is also really disturbing is the headline of that story was, man gets acquitted for throwing his elderly neighbor. The woman was 65. 65 years old. An elderly woman. Wow. That's just very disturbing. My guest today is not 65. In fact, she is 27 days younger than I. So she's quite the young spring chicken. Yes, she is. And as I mentioned, she is a former comedian. That's how we knew one another. We both started together in comedy in Detroit. She was a radio producer for the Mitch Albom Show. She did LA Talk Radio, or did LA Radio, music radio out here. She works for the Grammys now. She is also an author. Her new book will be released tomorrow. She does it all. And one of my favorite jokes she used to do back when we were on the comedy circuit way back when in the Motor City was a funny joke, and I'm not going to try to do it, but it alluded to the fact that Anne Frank had written this wonderful, fantastic diary that we all know and love at the age of 13, and she used to make jokes about the stuff she put in her diary as a young gal. Well, thanks to TikTok, she has brought some of them back. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy a little bit of my fantastic guest, Lisa Goich, and Dear Diary.
Dear Diary, Episode 3. Dear Diary, Donna got voted Best Smile today. I can't believe it. I have 3 dimples and she only has 2. How is that even possible? Jealous much? Dear Diary, Episode 4. September 7th, 1979. Dear Diary, tonight was the homecoming float party. Ron was there with Julie. What does he even see in her? I'm cuter than she is. And nicer. She's a bitch. I think it's her boobs. If that's the case, I'll never win.
And Lisa Goich. Hey, Lisa, how are you?
Hi, Jenny. How are you? Oh my gosh, those
I
diary
am
entries.
doing well.
I swear to God, with that diary, that is for true. And I spelled out swear words with the dashes in between them because I thought if my mom ever saw my diary that I wouldn't get in trouble for swearing. But little did I know the word is still there, right? Just with dashes in it. So I was kind of insane. I think I still am, but
Yeah. I've been worried about you. We last saw each other when you were so wonderfully kind and took me to the Bob Seger concert here in
oh my
LA.
God, we had so much fun. Please tell your joke that you said in the parking lot on the way out.
Okay.
Do you remember your joke?
Oh, God, yeah. We were walking out, and it was people our age and older there watching Bob Seger, and I was just looking around at everybody exiting, and I said, God, it looks like bingo just let out.
It's one of my favorite jokes of all time. I don't think I laughed that hard in forever. It was just so off the cuff and like was not expecting it. It hit from out of the blue.
True.
Oh my gosh, it was so much
But
fun.
I've been
that was
truly,
a fun concert.
that was a great show. That was a really good show. I've been a little worried about you because before the pandemic started, you were already a wee little bit of a germaphobe. How have you done during this pandemic?
Oh, you might make fun of me, but can I tell you, I was most prepared of anybody. You know what I mean? This is nothing. I've been preparing for this my whole life. I've been washing my hands. Hand sanitizer, masks. I wear them every single time I clean the house or have to like touch anything gross. I prepared. I had everything in the house that I needed while everybody was scrambling for things. I'm like, I have an entire drawer of hand sanitizer before the pandemic. So it's done nothing for me. Like it's business as usual. Business as usual. I really, I'm not kidding.
You work for the Grammys. Have you been working from home this whole time? Or are you going into the office or?
No, we've been working from home, which is wonderful because I have quite a commute, for people who are outside of Los Angeles. I live in the Valley, which is, I think I'm like 14 miles from my office, but on a good day, it's an hour and a half drive. On a not so good day, it can be up to 3 hours just to drive 14 miles. Yeah.
Oh,
so for me,
insane.
it has been heaven. Like I have to go pick up, we just got a new puppy and I have a baby gate at work that I used to use in my office for my dogs when I would bring them in. And all I want to do is go pick up the puppy gate. I don't even want to do that. I could do it at 11 o'clock and there would be no traffic, but I don't even want to go drive to the office to pick up the puppy gate. How am I ever going to go back to normal?
I think a lot of people will stay working from home and working remotely. So I think I'm hoping it might not be as bad. But real quickly, and then we'll get on, because I want to talk about your new book. But what is it that you do for the Grammys, and why have you not given Cher another Grammy yet?
I can't answer to that. Not my categories. I'll just keep it real brief. I run the jazz and comedy genres for the Grammys. That's basically my job. And nobody needs to get into all that it is, but we have all these different genre managers that handle different genres, and that is those are my genres, and it's really fun. Comedy, obviously, because I know a little bit about that, and jazz. Prior to working for the Grammys, I worked at the Playboy Jazz Festival. So my foray into getting into Playboy, my I should say my gateway to Playboy though was I applied for a job taking personal notes for Hugh Hefner. That was the job I applied for. Tell me that doesn't sound like the best job ever. I wanted that job so badly. It probably paid nothing. I don't remember, but I'm like, I have to have that job. Like that has to be my job. And it was a really intense interview, And I remember they asked me if I knew what HUAC stood for. And I was like, oh God, no, I don't know what HUAC stands for. But it was House Un-American Committee. And it was, during the whole, the
Yeah.
What do you call it?
McCarthyism thing?
The McCarthyism, thank you. My brain is not where it used to be. It was, the whole McCarthyism thing and, freedom of speech and Hugh Hefner and his whole thing was, everything that Playboy was built upon. So I don't know if that's what didn't get me the job, but I didn't get that job. But shortly thereafter, I got a call to be this coordinator at the Playboy Jazz Festival, and got to do so many fun things there, and it was great. So that's what led me to where I am now. But yeah.
All right. Now you have a book coming out tomorrow. We can have dueling book covers because it is your second book. I have a copy right here of your first, which was absolutely wonderful. It's called 14 Days, A Mother, a Daughter, and a 2-Week Goodbye. So tell us a little bit about how this wonderful, beautiful, just truly great book.
That's a book I wrote. To make the very long story short, I went home to visit my parents for what I thought was just going to be a long weekend, like one of my regular weekends home. And when I arrived in Michigan, my cousin who picked me up from the airport informed me that my mom was in the hospital. Nobody told me that beforehand because my family doesn't ever tell us anything. They think like that I'm 12 years old and I can't handle stress. I'm nearly 60 for God's sake.
Me too.
You know what I mean? So they like keep stuff from me. I'm like, well, you know that I'm here, right? I was eventually going to find this out. You could have told me 3 days ago. Would have made things easier. So my cousin took me straight to the hospital instead of to my parents' house. And I went to go visit my mom. And she had fallen. She just started kidney dialysis and she had fallen at her appointment. And while she was in the hospital, she was telling the nurse, she said, I hate going to this dialysis. She was like on her 11th visit. She said, I hate it. It makes me feel so awful. I don't want to live. I don't want this anymore. And the nurse basically told my mom, you don't have to do the dialysis. And my mom said, I don't. And she said, well, if you don't do the dialysis, you just won't live, but you don't have to do the dialysis. No, nowhere did my mom think that was even a possibility. She thought that she had to do the dialysis, that by not taking the dialysis, that would be some sort of, she was breaking the law or something, which is a sad thing that people aren't told these things, that they have these options.
True.
And so my mom said, well, if that's the case, I don't want to do it anymore. I'm done. Like she was in a lot of pain prior to that. She had horrible health issues and near the end. So, she decided that day that was going to be it. So when I got to the hospital, she basically told me, here's the deal. I'm quitting my dialysis. And the nurse said, it's going to be like 2 weeks till I die. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So I had just started my job. I called my office and asked them if I could stay home until my mom died. And they were fine. And I did. And it was the best. If you have to die, I tell people, and in all these interviews, I've been doing an interview for my new book, which we'll talk about in a second. Oh, look, my green screen is coming on. Here you go. I Wonder, a guided grief journal. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what I've been saying is that like it was a great 2 weeks to go. If you have to go, hope you have a little bit of time like that, not too much time for suffering, but not instantaneous. Do you know what I mean? There's if there has to be a happy balance in death, to me, it was the perfect way to go. We had parties like every day. People were coming over. People were bringing food. We played music. Everybody talked and laughed. And it was just like a 2-week goodbye party. And so anyway, I was posting in Facebook every day and people were saying I should sort of weave those tales together in a book. And that's kind of what the first book, 14 Days, was about. It was basically just about my mom's final 2 weeks of life. And there's a lot of backtracking in the book too. It goes back to like older stories and, memories and stuff like that. And it's funny too. The book is, don't think if you buy the book,
It's
crying your eyes out.
It's wonderful. It makes you laugh. It makes you cry. It makes you think. It's a truly, truly beautiful book. And I'm not just saying that because you're my best friend in comedy.
You're my best friend in comedy.
Great book. So tell us about the new one now.
Well, the new book, in my book, in 14 Days, there's a quote in the book. When my mom was dying, we were all there for her last minutes. And in the book, I had a quote that said, "I wonder if my first breath was as soul stirring to my mother as her last breath was to me." And
Wow.
my publisher really loved that line, and it went viral. Like if you type in that poem, it's on every grief list, every grief quotes. It's everywhere. Crazy. I don't know, but it's all over the place. And I wrote to them once and I said, "There's a girl on Etsy selling necklaces with that quote on them." And yeah, I know, weird, right? So my publisher said we should do something with that, and they wanted the whole book cover, the whole book title to be that. I go, "You cannot call a book that quote." That's like, so we have it on the back here. We compromise, and of course it's on the back. But the book's called I Wonder, and there's a lot of I wonder moments in here. Like I say, I wonder how I'm supposed to get through today. I wonder how long I'm going to feel this way. I wonder if it's okay for me to smile today. The book is a guided journal for people going through grief themselves. We have all of these like exercises in here that people can do. There's all kinds of prompts. It's basically your book to write about your person that you lost. So even the dedication in the book is not a dedication to any of my people, but the book is dedicated to your person. You put their name in there. So whoever your person is that you've lost, this becomes their book and their story and your journey with that person. So it sort of sprung from my book. So where I wrote 14 Days was my journey, this I Wonder is your journey. So it's a good little book. You know, I kind of like it, I have to say. There's other guided grief journals out there, but much like 14 Days was, I tried to keep it a little lighter. You know, it's not so heavy. Yeah. Some of the grief journals that I read were just so wah-wah to me. Like, I wanted to keep these a little bit more contemporary and more upbeat. I'm looking toward the future. I'm trying to get people to not stay where they are. And I know grief is different for everybody, and there's a million different ways to grieve. Yeah. But I'm really trying to keep in this book everything a little bit lighter so that you feel a brighter sense when you're journaling.
And, you know, sense. I think you're still a comedian at heart, you know, I mean, for all of the things, you've won Addy Awards when you worked in advertising. You've, like I said, you worked with Mitch Albom and all of the famous music people. You're still a really, really funny person at heart. And I think the ability to share that skill with others is really wonderful, actually. And I would imagine that is not necessarily even dying. I mean, people are going through all kind of weird grief with COVID. People are losing family members over this. So it's a really, really great timing on this too.
Well, yeah, and it's true. That's one of the things that the publisher was saying. It's a good time for this book to come out because so many people have lost so many people during this time, you know, and you know, I think it can help people. It's a good gift to get friends who are grieving. You know, I wish I had books like this to give to people. You know, when your friends are grieving and you don't quite know what to do and you want to send them a card or do you want to send them flowers? I like sending people things that are helpful for them. So I often go to Amazon and I'll find quote books or poetry books or something to send to people. Yeah. I like sending something that's going to last. You know, my mom, in fact, I think I talked about this in 14 Days. You know, my mom would say, you know, I don't want any goddamn flowers. They're just going to die. Like she would always tell us not to buy her flowers. So I think I've kind of embraced that. I don't want any goddamn flowers. So don't buy any goddamn flowers for your friends. Buy this book. It'll help people.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about another super positive thing you're doing, A Girl on the Go. You've got a podcast, it's a website, it's a newsletter if you want to get some uplifting, inspirational things in your email box. Tell us about A Girl on the Go.
A Girl on the Go is a company I started about in 2006, I believe. And it basically started as just my freelance writing company. So like I was a girl on the go. But as time went on, I realized that it was a brand. It's not me. It's a girl on the go for all girls on the go. You know, like I wanted it to be something for especially young girls. I wanted to try to inspire. So I started a podcast, which was put on hold when I started doing Mitch Albom's podcast, which we can get into in a second. Because it was just too much work for me to do along with all my other stuff, but I'm going to pick it up again, I promise. So I started a podcast called A Girl on the Go, but my real passion has been books. You know, I love writing. And so what I did was, and it's starting this year, my first book is coming out in September from A Girl on the Go imprint. Like, I started a publishing company. So the first one is a guided journal for young girls. And after that, I've got a book coming out called A Girl on the Go, Go, Go Goals. Sort of a goal setting sort of planner for young girls, to sort of teach them, like, you know, I'll take 5 goals, perhaps it's not fully written yet, but, and help them just flush out some of their goals, you know, to see how we can make them happen, you know. And then the next book that's coming out, I have 3 books planned as of now, but hopefully there'll be 10, 20. The third book is called Are You Mad at Me? And it's a guide for sensitive souls like myself, because when I was young and growing up, and I'm still this way, I was so worried about people not liking me, people being mad at me, why, you know, friends being pitted against you, or, you know, that the minute that you leave the conversation, they're going to talk about you, that sort of thing. And I think that's a common problem with girls, you know. And now imagine how bad it is when you have young girls have texts and they can get on all these separate text threads with other friends. I would be a horrible teenager these days. Horrible. It's so much stress. So that book is going to be about that, like, just to sort of, you know, first of all, teach younger girls that it doesn't matter, you know, none of that stuff matters. Just get it out of your head. Don't worry about what other people think about you. If you can start young, you won't get to my age and still be worrying about those sorts of things, to develop a sense of self-worth and self-confidence before you get to that point. Because that's really what it is. And I'm going to gather stories. And Jenny, you're welcome to contribute. I would love for you to contribute. I'm going to be gathering stories from other women who, you know, have positive things to say to girls who may have had those same feelings when they were younger, you know, of not, you know, being insecure or whatever, and how you got over them. So I want to include those in the book. So that's what I have on my plate.
Why we went into comedy too, you know. Like, for me, I always hated any sort of unhappiness, or, you know, my one of my friends growing up, she was always doing all kind of crazy stuff, and her mother would always scream and yell at her and scared the crap out of me. Did not affect my friend at all, but I was like, okay, well, we'll make sure she never does that again, you know. So I think that's a beautiful thing. It's really cool. You mentioned producing for Mitch Albom. You started doing that in Detroit. You're still producing for him for his podcast?
Yeah. Well,
I
started off on his radio show 25 years ago now, 30 years. I don't know. It was a long time ago. It was when I first moved to LA. So 25-ish years ago is when I started working on his radio show. And then because I was in LA, I couldn't, you know, my choice was to either move back to Detroit and continue the radio show. We tried having me stay here and work on it, but that didn't quite work. They wanted somebody that was in studio there. So throughout the years, I just ended up helping him sort of on a freelance basis. But then he had this idea for this podcast called Tuesday People. And it's a podcast based on the teachings of Maury Schwartz, Mitch's professor, that he wrote the book Tuesdays with Maury about. The mega best-selling book. Let me tell you something. Every day I'm checking on, because there's pre-orders now for I Wonder, a guided grief journal, coming out April 20th. I go to check on the stats, because every day during pre-sales, you know, I want to see if my book's getting any sales. And Mitch's book, Tuesdays with Maury, in all of the grief categories on Amazon, is still like number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. 25 years later. Wow. That's how that book is still selling. So we have this wonderful podcast. It is so good and so inspirational. We talk about life and death and everything, and grief and friendship and everything. We talk about all these life lessons on the show. And Mitch is just so smart, and he can talk about anything and just find the words. I mean, he's the real deal. Like, everything he writes about is what he is. And he's just a good dude. Such a longtime friend of mine, and it's the show is it's really good. I mean, it's Mitch's show. I produce it and I'm like a co-host with him. I'm just on the air with him, but it's really Mitch's show. And it's just he's so good at it. It's the perfect thing.
Yeah.
It's a perfect thing for his book. To keep Maury alive. And which, imagine that. Here's a guy who died 25 years ago, never having any idea. He was a teacher, that his teachings and his words would still be happening this far into the future. It's insane.
Yeah. It was a great book. He's such a good writer. He started as a sports writer in Detroit. You know, I mean, that's how we all knew him. And to this day, when I go back and read the stuff from the Free Press, he can make you cry about sports. He's
I know.
such a good writer.
And Jenny, you know that, me, I am not a sports person. Jenny and I, even though we're best friends in comedy, that is not a love we share, or knowledge I share.
True.
But Mitch's columns were one of the few things I would read because they were like slice of life sports columns. They weren't really. It's more about life than it is about sports.
Yeah. Then right. The scores.
Do we have time? Are we over time?
We do, yes. We got a couple minutes. Oh my God, yes. We got a couple minutes though, and we'll make time for
you'll
you,
like
my
this story.
friend.
This is a funny story about Mitch. When I went to Super Bowl, when I first started working with Mitch, and Mitch has like all access at Super Bowl, right? So we were,
Right.
they were interviewing the MVP. Is that what it's called? They were interviewing the MVP. It was Brett Favre that year. It was for Super Bowl 30. Okay, he got something, whatever. He is something. So Mitch was running late, and he always runs late because Mitch is like got a million things going at one time. So he sort of had me in line as a placeholder till he got there. Who do they call first? Mitch Albom. Mitch is not there. I had to go into a room alone with Brett Favre and I don't even know if they still have that somewhere on file, but dear God, I'd love to get a hold of that interview. Horrifying. I've never been so nervous in my life. So, how long you been playing football? It is football, right? It was one of my worst life moments ever.
Did he respond to it at all? Did he seem to know that? I mean, was he kind of enjoying the fact that you knew nothing, or
I
was
had to
he,
tell him?
like,
I said,
"What's up with her?"
I was caught between trying to think, do I act like I know what I'm doing? Because that's what we all try to do, right? That imposter syndrome or whatever. You go into these things, you're like, well, I can't let them know that I don't know what I'm talking about. So I started off pretending, and then I finally had to say, I got to tell you, I was holding Mitch's spot. He's supposed to be coming. I don't know where he is. I don't even know if we had cell phones at that time. But I couldn't even call him, right? And I'm like, I swear to God, he's going to come. And until then, we'll just do this because I know there's a lot of people in line. There was reporters from all over the world there. And here I am, first one out of the box. And I did say one thing because some other football player, don't even ask me who it is right now, I don't know, said that they had Brett Favre's jersey on their wall in their living room. And he was jealous because his wife bought it and put it on the other guy's living room wall. And so I just recalled that story from earlier in the day. And I said, whose jersey do you have on your wall? Or something like that. I'm like, let me try to tie it back to one thing I know.
Good question.
I know that was probably the only relevant question I asked, but anything else?
Do you remember the answer?
No, I don't remember. I was in such a fog doing that. I was so petrified. I left there and I was like, Mitch, don't you ever put me in that position again, ever. I had no business being there. I had no business. The worst thing I've ever done.
Oh my God.
If somebody can unearth
Lisa,
that.
A good portion of my audience are lesbians and sports fans, and they are all dying right now, going, "Oh, I'd have killed to talk to Brett Favre."
I know, right? I had so many friends that hated me that I had that experience. And I walked in there like a total doof, not knowing anything. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, it's so dumb. It was horrible. It was horrifying.
Oh my goodness. Well, listen, we gotta let you go. So good to see you. How can people get, I wonder?
It's for sale everywhere. It is on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. I'm going to tell you, there's a thing called bookshop.org, I think. I think it's .org, not .com. But they support local bookshops in areas. So when you buy from that website, you can pick your area, or you can pick a particular bookstore and they'll sell it. They'll go to the indies and sell from the indies. So that's what I'm championing.
Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah. So you can get it
Bookshop.
anywhere. It's on Books A Million, everywhere. Target, everywhere.
But it's called Bookshop, this website?
Bookshop.org, I believe it is. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much for being here, Lisa. Before I let you go, what I ask all my guests before I let them leave is, because we're going to go take a walk on the beach right now. We do that to get our spirits flowing and get up and energized. What do you do when you're feeling a little down in the dumps and you need to add a little positivity?
I walk or I write. Those are my two things. I think that's why I like journaling so much and trying to sell this journal thing to kids. I think getting anything out of your brain and onto paper, or in your case, getting it out of your brain and into your feet and getting out there, it helps. Just get it out of your head. Yeah. That's all.
Yep. Absolutely. Thank you so, so much, Lisa.
Jenny.
I can't wait till we're all vaccinated and I give you a great big Motor City hug.
Yay!
Great to see you. Please do yourself a favor. Go to agirlonthego.com.
Yes.
Yeah, and sign up for Lisa's newsletters. Get her books. She's amazing. We'll see you soon, I hope. Bye-bye, Lisa.
Love you, Jenny McNulty.
Love you too, Lisa. Alrighty then, and we are about to go take a walk on the beach, my friends. So go get your shoes on, and I'm gonna show you a very cool video, also with a Detroit theme, but it also pays homage to tomorrow's national holiday 420. What? Yeah, check this very interesting video out.
Amongst the thousands of products made from hemp, one of the most extraordinary is Henry Ford's plastic car. Built in 1941, it contained cellulose fibers derived from hemp, sisal, and wheat straw. The plastic was lighter than steel, yet could withstand 10 times the impact without denting.
That is really amazing. A car made out of hemp. Now, of course, hemp is the non-psychoactive form of cannabis, the cannabis flower, a cannabis plant. So we're going to talk one quick second about that, and then I'm going to show you a super inspirational video. I hope you've had time to put those shoes on. Are you ready to join me? It's time for all the good little boys and girls out there to get up off the chair, get off the couch, get out of bed. Let's go. Let's get some movement into your life. Cher was so darn moved by a 14 days, she went and downloaded the book, and she's reading it right now, and she can't join us on the beach. But one of these days, we're going to get her out here. So keep on walking with me, keep on moving, and let me tell you, in case you're wondering why it is 420 is the big pot smoking history. Well, we don't really know. It's pot smoking holiday. There's several different rumors as to how it got started. One of the stories is that 420 was the police code for a marijuana arrest. Another story was that these kids who started the whole thing used to meet after school at a certain place at 420 to smoke pot. But whatever the real story is, we pot smokers have forgotten it because, it's pot. So tomorrow is the big old national 420 holiday. So enjoy in whatever way you choose to. And now I'm going to show you one more inspirational clip. Sheila and I were watching PBS last night because, we're nerdy like that. And there was this really awesome choreographer. He was a former dancer by the name of Robert Hill. He is now the artistic director at the Orlando Ballet. And he is coming back out onto the dance floor. And not only is he doing that, he's got such an awesome message behind it. So please, enjoy this next clip. And while this clip is playing, let's do some interval walking and walk a little bit harder. If you're on a treadmill at home, maybe lift that treadmill incline or speed it up a little bit. But let's go and check out the very cool Mr. Robert Hill. Check it out.
A principal dancer with the American Ballet Theatre, the Royal Ballet of London, and the New York City Ballet, Robert Hill performed with the biggest companies for the greatest directors on the world's biggest stages until he was 41. That was nearly 20 years ago. Today, Hill is the artistic director at the Orlando Ballet, and he's preparing to make an unprecedented comeback performing The Calling, an intense emotional solo by renowned choreographer Jessica Lange. Hill began arriving early every day, working out and rehearsing in private.
I noticed the dancers peeking around the corner, the company dancers, and wanting to see it. And so finally I said, you know, I'm going to do a rehearsal for the dancers.
In the piece, Hill wears a huge skirt and is rooted to the stage, expressing both agony and ecstasy in an emotional and beautiful piece of artistry. Hill is a player's coach. He's a renowned teacher, beloved by those in his company because he's been there and done that. But this performance, this bold act, is a new lesson altogether.
I hope that it sends the message to the dancers that, yeah, a ballet dancer's career, you know, depending on the repertoire that you're going to dance, it fits into a certain time slot just because of the fact of the physical. It doesn't mean that your entire physical expression, the ability to express yourself physically, has to stop, because I'm living proof.
Even with a bad knee that will soon need to be replaced, Robert Hill has found a way to make a powerful statement that transcends the stage and delivers a powerful message to us all about belief and persistence.
Don't limit yourself. Don't let what you think is the perception about aging be that, because it doesn't have to be. I think you need to leave yourself open to possibility, you know, and don't box yourself in with limiting thoughts.
Hello, and we are back. You can slow down a little bit now if you had sped up your walking, and this is the culprit that you may have heard during Lisa's interview. He's mad that we did not do a message from Benito today, so he wanted to get on camera anyway. So I brought him out to the beach. I hope you enjoyed that. I want to thank you guys for watching, of course. As always, I want to thank Lisa Goich for really do yourself a favor and get both of those books. I haven't read the second one yet, but the first one is truly moving and wonderful. And don't get in the water. All right. Don't forget, Password is coming up in just a couple hours right here on this same channel. You can see Password. We've got a great lineup today. We have Poppy Champlin and Michelle Ballin from the East Coast taking on Samantha Hale and Sapna Kumar from out here on the West Coast. It's going to be a great battle. That happens at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 o'clock out east. Thank you again. Thanks so much to Lisa Goich. Thank you to Sheila for making me look good in directing. And of course, thanks to you for watching and walking along. Now keep going, you guys. Continue that walk. 20 minutes of a brisk walking every single day can truly change your life. So continue, please. Go out there. Walk around the block. Walk around the house. Go, 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 go. And see me on Wednesday, 1 p.m. right back here. Bye, guys.